Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Pokemon video. This is going to be my initial thoughts on the Pokemon Generation 8, Pokemon Sword and Pokemon Shield announcement. We got the announcement that there was a Pokemon Direct coming today, and we got our 7-minute presentation just a little bit ago. Ultimately, there wasn't a ton of details. I don't think really we expected them to go all out with every single mechanic and all the sort of exact details of this. They revealed about what I expected, which was they had to show some new Pokemon. Naturally, that makes sense that it's the 3 starters. That's exactly what they did. They gave us the name of the new region, and the trailer shows off a basic idea of here's the idea of what this region is going to be like, the different kind of sections of that region you're going to encounter. I look at just what the graphics look like, and that's really it. So first of all, Pokemon Sword and Pokemon Shield as the names. I think it's very fitting. It fits the whole Diamond Pearl, Sun and Moon, X and Y sort of style of naming things. Two versions, of course. But I think that works, and especially like, we already have like a Sword Pokemon with like Aegislash in its evolutionary line. But if there's some sort of like legendary Pokemon that relates to the Sword, legendary Pokemon that relates to the Shield, to me that's fairly cool, because I don't really have too much of a problem with Pokemon being based off like things. So like Aegislash is actually one of my favorite Pokemon, so I've never had that much of a problem. Like similarly, like I actually like Vanilluxe as a Pokemon. So if that's where the legendary Pokemon are going with the idea that it seems like there's going to be some sort of like Sword Wolf type thing or Shield Wolf, that seems very interesting to me. It's based on how they do the lore here of, like, obviously to some degree it's going to be Knights related at some point. That could lead to some interesting lore in this game, given that Pokemon usually doesn't have a lot of lore or story going on. So yeah, I definitely like that idea. The region is called the Galar region. And yeah, it seems to be, as I said, UK kind of inspired. They just kind of describe that it has like countryside, cities, forests, craggy areas, snow-covered mountains. People and Pokemon live together. That's really all there is. They do confirm gyms are back, in that they say you'll visit various gyms in the Galar region, aiming for the inevitable and admirable title of champion. Okay, so they're moving away from the Sun and Moon system with the challenges and stuff like that, back into gyms. That is perfectly fine. I think that's something that they needed to do. And we'll see if there's any kind of extra kind of new stuff really added in. Other than that, like in the trailer, with regards to the graphics, the only real thing I'll say is that very clearly it is basically the Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee sort of engine, but I think there's a decent amount of improvements there. Now, part of that could just be that the design, the look of Kanto isn't very interesting, whereas what they've done here actually feels very unique. There's a lot of really nice kind of views and landscapes that we saw in the trailer, and I think a lot of that is just helped by the kind of UK styling of having these kind of like countrysides. Here's like a kind of sloped kind of mountainside, and there's kind of like this what I assume is probably some sort of legendary Pokemon kind of like thing carved into the grass. All that seems fairly cool. The towns seem kind of industrial in a way that we kind of haven't seen before. So I'm all for the styling, and like I like the way Pokemon like Let's Go looked. It's just it was fairly boring overall as a game because the mechanics weren't all there. Final thing, I suppose, just on the trailer before I get to talking about the 3 starter Pokemon. The only like mechanic reveal that it seemed to reveal is that while Pokemon battles seemed to be back, in that they specifically showed the trainer crouch walking through the grass, and then the wild encounter activating in the same style as it did in the other games. Now, this is one of the few things from Let's Go that I feel should have been carried over into this new game, which was the Pokemon actually appearing there in the grass and you walking over to them. To me, that was the most unique part of Pokemon Let's Go Eevee and Pikachu, and I'm a little surprised that they haven't brought that over. Now, I understand it if it ultimately comes down to they didn't want to have to design like models for all of the Pokemon, this many Pokemon from all of these generations having to appear in the overworld in the grass like that. I get that maybe that was something special they could do for just the original 151, and that it's a bit much to try and do it here, but if it was at all possible, I would have liked to have seen that. It didn't, I don't think it properly confirmed to us if just it was wild battles. Maybe I need to watch the trailer again. But either way, the wild encounter system, that seems to be back in that way. Now, ultimately, I don't mind too much, but, you know, if you want to take some stuff from Let's Go, there's something. Just as a brief speculation, another thing would be that I'd actually hope that they just have the computer with you on, like, you know, your smartphone type thing, basically like they did in Let's Go Eevee, that you don't have to go to a Pokemon Center to switch out Pokemon. That was a nice quality of life change that this game had. But other than that, I would hope that everything is back from the other games, like abilities return, and then just in general, please, Pokemon Company, never release a mainline or pseudo-mainline Pokemon game again that doesn't feature Pokemon abilities. It made the battling so boring in Let's Go. Yeah, now for the 3 starter Pokemon, the only kind of Generation 8 Pokemon that we got revealed here in this trailer. So we have Grookey, the grass Pokemon, Scorbunny, the fire Pokemon, and Sobble, the water Pokemon. Grookey to me is the weakest of the bunch in terms of design. You know, ultimately with all of these 3, the main thing I'd say is, like I've said before when I've done Pokemon videos, I don't particularly care about the first or second stage of most of these starter Pokemon designs, because ultimately you're not really going to be using them all that much. The last form is the form that matters. That is ultimately what you're going to be seeing most of the time. That is that Pokemon, like, at its best, with its probably dual typing or whatever way they're going to go about it. And to me, like, I look at Grookey and I'm like, okay, so what, we're going to get some sort of like grass Infernape type Pokemon? That could be okay, but again, I think we've had a few too many just standard monkey Pokemon, that just a kind of grass monkey doesn't really interest me all that much, unless as it goes up its evolutionary line, something different really happens. I really do wonder what the secondary typing is going to be, or if it actually has a secondary typing. If it's just grass, that's a little boring in my opinion, but definitely, like I said, Grookey seems to be the weakest of the bunch. Next up, Scorbunny, the fire Pokemon. It's a rabbit. I actually like that in the trailer they showed that the sort of unique thing about this is that it obviously hops around and can kind of run, and as it does that, it leaves like kind of flaming grass behind it, so its footsteps are kind of hot, potentially because of the friction. That seems actually really cool to me. And I can see just by the way it kind of looks, especially when you see the picture of it like standing up, like I could see this being a pretty cool final stage Pokemon, of it being another kind of fast fire type. Again, I do wonder what secondary typing it would have. That's going to be a very, I think, telling thing overall with, you know, how exactly it ends up kind of working out. But overall, I think that's actually, the Scorbunny is actually a very solid design. I actually quite like it. Sobble is interesting in that, I'd say just of this like stage 1 basic Pokemon design, Scorbunny I think probably is the best design of the 3, but I think Sobble has the most potential that by the time we get to the final evolution, Sobble will probably look the most unique and different of the 3. And because of that, just based off the first stage of this line, I would probably lean towards Sobble kind of being my favorite, given that I only really actually care about the final stage of the line. The trailer showed that he can kind of go invisible. Now I do wonder how much they'll do to sort of separate just the gimmick of this Pokemon from, say, like a Greninja type thing, where he's the ninja water Pokemon. That would maybe lead you to believe, will they go dark with the other typing? Will they go ghost with the other typing? That could be actually quite interesting if they do like water ghost in some way, or choose one of the other types to go with him. But he definitely seems alright, and sort of, I think, the most uniquely different of the other ones. Water lizard, and it's not the most obvious looking kind of lizard like we've got previously in Pokemon, so that's why I think it stands out a bit more to me than the other two. But I do, as I said, I do like Scorbunny's design. Grookey, not as much, just because I feel at times grass Pokemon can be very, very dull looking, and you have to really do something really unique to kind of grab me with a grass Pokemon, and just making it a grass monkey Pokemon to me just doesn't interest me all that much. But yeah, that's basically all there is right now. Like I said, I think it's a pretty solid opening, and in general, I think most Pokemon fans are just happy that we have this information now. We know that, okay, this is the game we're getting. They can now start what they've done with all of the previous mainline games and start to release, you know, batches of Pokemon as the months go on. I assume we'll be getting lots of other presentations like this as the months pass, and we'll be getting, you know, the second stage of these Pokemon reveal, the final stage, what the legendaries are, some of the more unique typings that I suppose we'll see, as well as any mechanic changes that they decide to introduce or things they bring back. Because obviously they have like horde battles, you know, we'll be doing double, triple battles in this game. Is there any other things mechanically they'll be doing that's any different? Because I know, what was it, like 6th generation introduced a couple of new mechanic things. Obviously Fairy type was kind of you know, what are we talking about? 6th generation, 7th generation. You know, there's little bits and pieces like mechanically that they're doing along the time to constantly improve the kind of just battle system. I wonder what they'll do this time to kind of change it up, because there's still, I think, type like types that they haven't done yet, type combinations that they haven't done yet. Stuff like, I think, steel poison they haven't done, normal mixed with a lot of different types they've never done before, and a couple of other ones like I don't think they've ever done like fire grass and then fire ice. There's lots of different typings like that we don't have yet. So with regards to other Pokemon, it'd be stuff like that I'm kind of more looking for. Then I suppose one final piece of speculation would be just that kind of the thing I've been asking for with like the last couple of games, which is just add in something to this game that is kind of just a mode that kind of acknowledges that you've played a Pokemon game before, where you can skip a lot of the basic "this is how Pokemon works" tutorial type stuff. Maybe the trainers are just a little bit tougher than usual, and it just adds a little bit more challenge to the game. Just because it's been a big problem with the last two, not talking about Let's Go, but you know, X and Y and then Sun and Moon. Both of those games I thought were extremely easy without even doing a whole lot of training or grinding or trying to like catch Pokemon with specific natures or guide the IVs in any sort of a way. They were just really, really easy because you didn't encounter a lot of tough trainers. And inevitably, like a lot of the Pokemon games do, the only time you ever really get challenged is if you are kept away from a Pokemon Center or anyone that's going to heal your team for a long time, and if you have to go through just a string of like 30 battles in a row and you get ground down eventually by not having enough potions with you or something like that. I prefer some sort of a thing where we can make it so that, okay, you know, I think to me, like in terms of battling, I prefer the difficulty to come from the matchups of the Pokemon rather than just how many battles in a row can you get through without healing your team. How deep is your items pocket, basically. But yeah, I think this is very solid so far. Just the Sword and Shield seems really cool to me. The setting seems cool. The starter Pokemon I think are fairly good, actually. I think compared to like the last couple of starters, you know, batches of starters, I think that this is kind of one of the better ones and more interesting. The grass starter Grookey is the only one who really just has no appeal to me. But who knows, because as I said, I only really care about the final stage of the evolution line. Maybe Grookey, by the time we actually get that final form, is going to look super, super cool. Maybe he has that really, really cool type matchup, type combination. Maybe he has some cool abilities that make him the most interesting one of all. Because ultimately, you know, I do care a lot about the stats of the Pokemon as well as the design. So there's that also. So yeah, that's my initial thoughts on Pokemon Sword and Shield. Just in case you haven't seen the new Pokemon yet, that is the 3 of them there. As you can see, I think as a group they actually fit well together, which is good, always kind of nice to have. But yeah, I hope they don't wait too long before giving more information on the game. I get they said late 2019, which probably means November or December release, but they've got probably like at least 70 new Pokemon in here realistically, if they're calling it a full generation. And then they have other stuff to talk about as well as the months go on, like Mega Evolution, is that going to be part of the game, or the Z move is going to remain a part of the game, that sort of thing. Just all those different mechanics that they've sort of almost dropped from other games, like are they coming back in this way? And then I suppose, and the other thing is always as well, will they add evolutions to any other Pokemon? Like, will Eevee get some of the other typings in this generation as well? Those are the questions that obviously interest people a lot as well. So yeah, they're my initial thoughts on Pokemon Sword and Pokemon Shield. In the comments, let me know what your thoughts were on this initial announcement. How do you feel about the 3 starter Pokemon? Which one of the 3 is your favorite? And what are your hopes and expectations for the game? So that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.